Is there anybody else who would like to speak to this ordinance? Seeing none, I'll look to Councilmember Mendenhall.
I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing, suspend the rules, and adopt tonight.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Mendenhall, second by Councilmember Kitchen. Councilmember Mendenhall, would you like to make some comments?
I just want to thank our police attorney and our city attorneys for working so collaboratively on this. You know that we brought the bike squad back a long time ago, and the reality is we can't police our way out of the climate of crime that happens down there. So we looked at loopholes, and this closes some loopholes, and it also makes it less financially feasible for businesses to conduct illegal activity and get away with it. So thank you to our administration and the police department for working with me on this.
Anyone else? With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Councilmember Mendenhall. We'll now move to Section C on our agenda, which is potential action items, of which we have none tonight. So we now move to D, which is comments and questions to the mayor from the City Council. Any of my colleagues have any questions for Mayor Biskupski? Mayor Biskupski, thank you for your attendance tonight. Any questions? All right, seeing none, we will move to the comments to the City Council. As with the other public comments, we just ask you to be courteous and respectful. And you will have 2 minutes to speak. There should be, if you're interested in speaking, there should be a yellow card, and I'm waiting to see if there are any cards. I know that we have some of you interested in speaking. Thank you. Okay, so I have a few cards here. What I will do is call 2 names, and if the second name that I call can be ready for just to move forward, that would be great. First card is Polly Hart, followed by Douglas Cotant.
Hello, my name is Polly Hart. I live at 355 North Quint Street on Capitol Hill. Most of you know me. I think all of you know me. I want to talk tonight about traffic issues in the downtown area, specifically an encounter I had yesterday on the sidewalk of North Temple between State and Main Street. This has been an ongoing problem of church vehicles that do maintenance work on the various church properties, including Temple Rectangle and the Conference Center, using the sidewalks, which is technically against the law. And yesterday, the sidewalk on that particular block is pretty narrow, and I was walking my dog and found myself in a standoff with an electric vehicle. And the guy actually smiled at me and waved me to back up so that he could pull a left-hand turn in front of me into the driveway. I know this has been an issue citywide for a long time, as I said. I spoke several years ago to Robin Hutchison about it. She told me she was working on it, and about a year or so ago, she told me that the city was doing enforcement. Whether that meant ticketing the drivers, I'm not sure. I don't want to dispute her because she's not here to defend herself, but I have never, ever seen a reduction in the number of vehicles, and I have only seen an increase. I actually sent an email to Stan yesterday. In less than 10 minutes, I encountered 4 vehicles on 3 city blocks. So I would like the city to finally really do something about this, because it's a danger not only to pedestrians, but to people who require ADA access. Secondly, the traffic light at North Temple and Main Street, where you drive down the ramp into the church parking. Sorry, I'll be really quick, I promise. When the city bought North Main Street, the promise to the Capitol Hill Community Council was that as a mitigating factor, traffic would never be allowed to go down Main Street straight into the parking lot or straight out of the parking lot into Main, Davis County commuters. We were promised that, and what was put in was a left turn arrow.
Ms. Hart, if you can finish your thought.
Instead of a right turn arrow, we got a ball. And I asked engineering, why did you do that? And they said, oh, people will know that they can't go straight. Well, guess what? 2 months ago, traffic was redone so that it is now legal to go straight in and straight out. I expect that to be cleared up. Stan, I'm going to work with you on that.
Thank you, Ms.
very
Hart.
much. Thank you for everything you guys do.
Douglas Cotant, followed by Amir Cornell.
Thank you for allowing me to speak at this public hearing, comment section. This past Saturday, I know that UKA was doing construction on some of their tracks, but for some reason, I wanted to go to Draper, and they had it so situated that, well, first of all, I wanted to go to 4th South, to Dunkin' Donut. I had to go down to Gallivan Plaza and wait for a train to go from Gallivan Plaza up 4th South, and I thought that was a little ridiculous and as well as confusing. The other thing I would like to say is that I had a situation where I took the blue line later on the way to Draper. We got to Draper, but on the way back, apparently the female train driver slammed on the brake and almost caused me to fall out of my seat. So I complained about it, and they are studying the issue. And I know that one time Mayor Bastupski wanted the UKA tracks or UKA buses to the Winter neighborhoods, and apparently UKA decided not to do that. So I'm wondering if we could maybe consider the possibility of going away with UKA and bringing in another bus system. One of those buses, some of those buses would be the University of Utah buses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cotant. Amir Cornell, followed by George Chapman.
Good evening, Council. The reason I'm here is we are getting closer and closer to month of September. Mr. Chairman, I would like if you can speed up for hearing for the ADU. And this ADU needs to come to this floor no later than August. The reason is the neighbor wants to know what's going to happen to this ADU. If you, by calling Nick at the City Council or calling Mike Malloy at the planning, we really appreciate to bring that issue to the floor. And number 2 issue I have is Salt Lake City, anything you do to your house beside lawn, cutting lawn, you need to have a permit. If you compare your city with those cities, it's mandatory. Like I was putting fence, they said you need to get a permit. How much is it? $69. I tried to put a roof on my house. They said you need to get the permit. How much is it? Well, $189 permit. And I said, what the hell are you going to do with $189? They said, well, we're going to send the inspector. And I said, right on. We would like when somebody from this office going to say, why everything in Salt Lake City, when you want to do to your house, you need a permit. And that's all I have. And if you can concentrate on those issues. And since I have more time, Madam Mayor, I want to say thank you what you have done for homeless people, and don't let little things get you down. Mr. Hughes doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. There is always a lone wolf and doing something stupid. Nobody sent them to the homeless shelter to do so on purpose. Some of these people, they need a medical help. And
Thank
it
you,
is
Mr.
not
Cornell.
with the city of Salt Lake City. And I'm sure by next year, at the same time, they have home. And all of them should say, thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. George Chapman, followed by Candace Perusi, or Pirusi. Correct me when you come up. Okay.
What a week. Salt Lake City Council is told that we don't have water or money to water the trees. And yes, they should have told you all before the budget. I don't know what Public Utilities is thinking. This has been done before, so I hope you work on better communication, because that was ridiculous. And speaking of communications, for some reason, transportation, which is actually behind a closed sidewalk over on the other side, I can't understand that. So how does transportation, when they go from here to there, get to their building? Do they walk around the block, or do they actually jaywalk? So we have a problem in Salt Lake City with sidewalks closing when they shouldn't. Hope you can do something about it. What I wanted to talk about was transportation is pushing 21st South reseal, and at the same time they have everybody up in arms, literally up in arms, about a potential road act going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. Instead of spending a few months trying to get the community to back a project that could be good, they actually made every single person mad. No matter what you do, everybody's going to be mad. And I'm asking you not to do the 21st South reseal, but use the money for 27th South, which is more important, and the West Side, which is still complaining about lack of services there. And finally, Mayor, when you discuss the homeless issue with the state and the county, it's not your issue. It really is the county's fault. They cut the mental health budget in half a few years ago. That's their fault. They don't provide enough funding for the prosecutor to keep people in jail, and so it's a revolving door. That's the county's fault. And the jail beds, that's the county's fault. So let them know that the county has to step up to take care of the
Time.
homeless issue. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Okay, one more try. Candace Pirucci, followed by Elmer Height.
That's the Italian last name. It's the Che. You got it.
Okay, all right,
So I'm
thank you.
Candace Perucci with Congressman Chris Stewart's office. Appreciate having a moment today. I'm his Director of Community Relations and wanted to introduce myself. I'm hoping to be able to come more regularly to council meetings, and really just wanted to draw your attention to the refugee drive that the congressman is doing out of our office. We are raising school supplies for refugee youth in the community. We did this last year and collected thousands of school supplies, and we're able to fill up over 500 backpacks for refugee youth. So we're hoping to do that again this year. And also wanted to let you know, and also constituents in the room know, that our office in Salt Lake City does a lot of work with casework, and particularly Social Security, Veterans and Military Affairs, and then immigration casework as well. So if you ever encounter a constituent who's having an issue at the federal agency, please send them our way. I think Tracy was handing out the flyers that I brought for the refugee drive, as well as my business card. So if you could refer them to us, we are happy to help and appreciate your service. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Perucci. Elmer Height, followed by Calvin Fors.
I'd like to wish to request the City Council make time on a future council agenda to discuss the possibility of a city ordinance change that would allow miniature goats within residential areas. Miniature goats are about the size of a German Shepherd, weigh about 60 pounds, and stand about 24 inches at height at their shoulder. Some concerns were initially raised regarding noise, odor, chewing, trespassing, escape, and destruction. Virtually all of these issues are nullified in the proposed ordinance change. Believe it or not, chickens are not the only farm animals turning up legally in cities. Goats are now legal within some limitations in Seattle, Spokane, San Diego, San Francisco, Pasadena, St. Louis, Oakland, Portland, Cleveland, Fort Worth, Berkeley, and St. Paul, to name a few major cities. All have similar ordinances as these proposed ordinance changes. Spokane, a city whose population is slightly larger than Salt Lake City, is reported to have 17,181 registered dogs. Reported that after 1 year, the ordinance change, they only had 30 residents having miniature goats and only received 1 complaint in the first year. Miniature goats make wonderful pets, and dairy breeds make a wonderful addition to home gardening, composting, chickens, and beekeeping in residential areas. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Height. A miniature goat would be smaller than my puppy, so. Calvin Fors, followed by Patrick Beaker.
Good evening, Council. My name's Calvin Fors. I just wanted to start by saying Salt Lake has always been a city that accepts refugees, those looking for a better life, be they political or religious refugees. Let's face it, the city was founded by religious refugees. While we consider making monetary concessions to allow others to provide a means to accommodate these people and welcome them to our community, let's make sure this is also providing a way for those in this community to continue to build a better life for themselves. Picking responsible contractors that offer fair wages with good benefits, health care, retirement, a certified apprenticeship program. This will ensure those who may have come before can better their own lives without being alienated by the very community that they call home and have called home for many generations, for the current generation, and for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fors. Patrick, I apologize for messing up your last name.
Probably my writing.
Well, that didn't help, but still, I apologize. And then Bernie Hart is the last card that I have. So if there's anyone else who would like to speak, fill out a card and hand it to a staff member.
Well, my name is Patrick Beaker. I just want to speak on the public benefit analysis that's going to be coming up. I think that the biggest public benefit that we could be looking for is ensuring that there's some public or local hire languages in this building that's going to be going up. If the city's going to be leasing it for $12 a month, or a year rather, at the very least we could do is make sure that we have trained, skilled workforce building anything that's being put in there with some apprenticeship set-asides. That is the only way to make sure that we have responsible contractors at the subcontractor level. And if we want to do something about some of this budget problem that we have, I think that the city council ought to be looking at getting a handle on some of this underground economy on all your public works buildings, because there's a lot of tax dollars that are not being paid, which is going to affect, your bottom line. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Beaker. Bernie Hart is the last card that I have.
Bernie Hart. I was a little taken back by Representative Yu's comments about the Rio Grande area and his proposed solution until I started thinking about it. And I decided that somebody had to say publicly something about him that was positive. His statements about sending the National Guard into the Rio Grande area to solve the problem, if the other service providers and the mayors and the people that represent the collective impact and the other communities that are dealing with the supposedly social workers and everybody that's supposed to be dealing with the homeless problem don't get their act together and do something in a positive way to make some impact on the population and what's happening down there, he would take care of it. I thought it was pretty amazing because it acknowledged that the system that is dealing with the problem down there is totally dysfunctional and nothing positive has happened and nothing has happened over the past 4 or 5 years that impacted the problem down there. It just got worse. So Representative Hughes hit it the nail right on the head and demonstrating his frustration with the 2 mayors and the collective impact and the service providers and what they're doing to impact that community, because I care greatly for that community. And when it comes to that point, when somebody expresses frustration with the system, I wholeheartedly wholeheartedly support their position, because somebody has to take a position of passion and caring and bring some energy to what's happening down there, because what I see from all the interested parties is a step back and let it take care of itself, do nothing type attitude, which is totally unacceptable. So to see passion come into the discussion is welcome. No matter if I agree with it or not, it is welcome, and it's about time it happened. So thank you, Representative Hughes, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. That will conclude our general comments to the City Council. We'll now move forward with the consent agenda, although before I look for a motion, we do need to remove item number 5 from the consent agenda, which is the ordinance petition to amend accessory dwelling units ADU-related provisions. Quickly to speak to that, because I know Mr. Cornell is going to ask the question. The only thing we're doing here is giving the public a little bit more time before we put this on the agenda. So this will be discussed at a future meeting. During our work session, we spent quite a bit of time this afternoon discussing this issue. So the council is moving forward on the ADU issue. There still will be a lot of time for discussion, a lot of time for input, and we just wanted to ensure that the public had more of an opportunity to voice their opinion on this upcoming ordinance. So with that removal, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda with the exception of G5.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Penfold, second by Councilmember Mendenhall. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously, and that will conclude our formal meeting. Thank you.